It's time to talk all things X-Men. We got a big issue of 10 Lives of Wolverine. We also got another X-Men issue from Jerry Duggan. Here talking to me about that is my good friend Doc, the Marvel aficionado, the X-Men historian himself. What up?
Yeah, I'm here.
So we didn't get exactly creme de la creme as far as X-Men comics, but it is a bit of a step up from the last issue of 10 Lives of Wolverine. Definitely a step down on X-Men. We'll hit the 10 Lives of Wolverine first because that's the big event series. This has got some things going for it, Doc, because we finally have some things happen. I don't know exactly that they make sense. The first thing I got to talk to you about, we see now how Omega Red is doing this. It's quite ridiculous. They actually removed the carbonadium piece from his heart, and they stabbed him in the chest with the Cerebro sword, and that's how he can travel through time. I'm completely confused. Are we saying that if Professor X took the Cerebro helmet, crafted it into a sword, and shoved it into his heart, it would work just as well?
I guess.
Plus, is Omega Red a telepath on the level of Charles Xavier?
Well, apparently Wolverine is, to be able to time travel too. Once again, we're back to none of the mechanics of this story make sense. Cerebro doesn't do this. And non-telepaths don't use Cerebro. There's some very basic rules to storytelling that Ben Percy has just said, fuck it doesn't matter to. Not to mention the fact that when you have a machine, it gets broken, especially a computer. The machine stops working. The technology doesn't work right.
I think what he's hinting at is this is not a mechanical device. That it's some type of magical device, but I don't remember magic ever being a part of the Cerebro.
There's no magic involved with Cerebro. It's just simple science. He's
treating it like it's like they took a magic artifact and reforged it to be something else. Exactly. But it's not. It's a machine. It needs to be put together correctly.
Anything with circuits, it sends electricity and impulses from point A to point B in order to do Operation C. None of those things happen when you just decide to jam the shit together. Essentially what the Cerebro sword was. It was a novelty Magneto made for Xavier to commemorate the first time he died on Krakoa. That's it.
Plus, Cerebro is not really supposed to be used for traveling through time, but that's whatever.
Yeah,
Ben Percy says it so it is so. And the more I think about this story, the more I dislike it. I'm not going to recommend it. The best part potentially of this entire comic book is we almost lost Daken. I was kind of pulling for Omega Red there. I was like, yeah, kill her ass. Make Wolverine murder his wife, and we won't have Daken anymore. Obviously, that's a terrible thing to say even about a comic character. But
if we can get rid of Twinkverine, I'd be fine with it. He's a terrible character, and he has been since his introduction. I hate Daniel Way because he gave us Daken. I really wanted Omega Red and Romulus and whoever the hell else was there to fucking slaughter Itsu. That way, I don't have to be punished by having Daken around.
You know what's weird is it did appear that Itsu was slaughtered by Romulus. He's impaled her on his claws. He's holding her above his head. I mean, those are pretty life-threatening injuries, to say the least.
Yep.
But apparently, when you're possessed by Omega Red, once he goes away, better. You get healed up, even though your organs have been pierced. And we've seen several people die as they were possessed by Omega Red before.
If Wolverine or anybody stabifies you while you're Omega Red, but you don't die as Omega Red, then you just magic heal. You just get better. But if he decides to unpossess you, but if you stay possessed until you die and then he jumps, then you're dead. None of this makes sense because Itsu should be dead. This is some fucking terrible writing, and every issue of this, Ben Percy goes down yet another level in my book of bad writers.
I think the problem is I don't think he has a set of rules, a mechanism on how this operates. So he's playing loose and fast with the ideas like, well, I can do whatever I want. It's my idea. But if you don't have rules that confine it, then people aren't going to be able to understand the idea. And then when you just kind of do all this stupid bullshit, it comes off as really dumb.
Well, yes, when you just do whatever the hell you want because you want it, there are no rules. And when there are no rules, there are no stakes. And when there's no stakes, nobody gives a fuck. Magic. Everything's fucking magic. That's it. That's the only way you could chalk up this story. Everything's magic and nothing matters.
What I think is kind of emblematic just of not just this story, well, yeah, of this story. I'll put it on this. Is there's a moment where Omega Red possesses what appears to be like a whale of some sort. And I think, on paper, when he wrote it down, it sounded really cool. But when you see it on the page, you're like, man, I feel bad for Joshua Cassara because this looks really stupid. In Ben Percy's mind, this story is really cool. But as the story is unfolding, it's not cool. It's an enormous waste of time. And you can continuously see, yeah, I guess he was going for this, but nothing's working in this particular story.
Nothing here. I think it's almost like Ben Percy is challenging Joshua Cassara to draw one stupid fucking thing in every book. In the first issue, we got some cringy bullshit. Mama Xavier with a shotgun and an umbilical cord still hanging out her cooch. Second issue, we got Cuck Vereen fetal positioned around Itsu. And then third issue, now we get Omega Red Sperm Whale. What the fuck?
What'd you think of the ending? So that was the only part that I thought that was kind of cool. I was waiting for this to happen. I was like, why doesn't Omega Red just take over Wolverine? Or take over Charles Xavier's grandpa and make him kill himself?
Yeah, exactly. It seems like he's going way, way, way out of the way to make this more complicated than it has to be. We're 3 issues in on this Lives of Wolverine. We finally got to the first marginally interesting twist. And even that is one that should have happened by like page 10 of the first issue. Fuck this book.
Definitely not recommending it. Not one of my favorite. I think X Lives of Wolverine is destined for failure. One of the weird things is of how House of X and Powers of 10 felt intrinsically connected. This does not feel connected whatsoever with 10 Deaths of Wolverine, which is what I think they're going for here. So I think this is an enormous letdown. It's better than the first 2 issues, but that isn't saying anything because the first 2 issues were so bad. Now let's move over to the X-Men series, the flagship from the X-Men office. Jerry Duggan, Javier Pena on X-Men number 8. If you like MODOK, you get some MODOK in here. You get some character moments. I like Javier Pena's art for the most part in this issue. I don't think it's great, but I think it's good. But when he illustrates MODOK, it looks really stupid.
MODOK does not look cool. The art in this book was marginally all right. But look, I mean, it's a MODOK book written by Jerry Duggan, which means I don't even know I'm pretty sure Jerry Duggan is American, and I want to deport him for how bad his sense of humor is. I swear to God, everyone read Next Wave and then decided that's how MODOK should be in every comic forever. None of them have the cleverness of Warren Ellis. It just makes MODOK insufferable. Anytime
even like the buffet jokes?
No, it really, it's terrible. He is an insufferable character when written in this way by anyone but Warren Ellis. And even Warren Ellis realized that it was getting really like cringy really fast, and he kind of finished that book off and stopped using MODOK stuff.
What did you think about Scott entering MODOK's mind? If he sees him, apparently he models himself, at least in his own mind, as some type of father with a kid. They're in the back, and he's, I don't know, is he barbecuing X-Men?
I guess. I mean, I guess he's a cannibal because
I don't know. Is he a person? Or I guess he's an experiment.
He is a humanoid, mechanized organism that's mostly human-ish. So yeah, I guess he'd technically be a cannibal if he's eating people.
There's supposed to be a drop the mic moment there at the end from Cyclops. I thought that fell flat. I guess the story is MODOK has taken a cruise ship and he's laced the water with something to turn people, insane. I guess he's doing it for the science.
Honestly, at this point, they should just put like the trademark symbol above every time one of these fucking idiots says science, because none of this is science. This is just stupidity and randomness.
It's kind of weird. It's that monster of the week thing that you and I have been talking about that's really bogged down Jerry Duggan's X-Men run, where it's only interesting when these 3 villains that he's introduced a little bit here and there show up. You're like, okay, this is cool, and then they go away and then they don't come back for 3 or 4 issues. None of them even show up in this one, and I think this is supposed to be a character exploration really of Synch. I'll give Duggan credit for this. There's finally a conversation between Synch and Laura about the lives that he lived with her inside the vault, which was hundreds of years that she doesn't remember. I'm glad they did it, I guess, during a fight, so they didn't do it while they were eating in a treehouse. So I guess that was a plus for it in some way. But it was a weird flirting between the two, and it didn't really.
It was a very left field conversation. It was like they were already talking. They were talking about something completely unrelated. If you're going to get to do they're finally having the conversation, you have to have a bunch of like false starts to this conversation in previous issues or even in the same issue. And then they finally have that conversation. This is just like, all right, we're doing this and this. And by the way, Laura, we were in love in the vault. And I haven't brought this up, even though it's been, we're 8 issues in now and like 15 issues since the last time we talked about this. You might as well have just started talking about something completely different. It didn't matter what you brought up at that point. It was just out of left field conversation that didn't feel authentic. It just felt like, I don't know, like Laura was way too fucking cutesy in it.
Yeah, it was strange. She's like, so how long did I wait before I kissed you? He's like, only 2 years, 200 years. She's like, oh, I like a guy that's like persistent or something.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sitting there going like, I hate everyone on this page right now. And I really hate Jerry Duggan for having written it.
Another example of someone taking Jonathan Hickman's idea and just bastardizing it and ruining what he was setting up with their terrible execution.
There was nothing about this interaction that felt authentic and human. This is a great way to get rejected. Like, did he ever try this before? Because Jerry, I hope you're married, man, because otherwise, if this is your pickup game, it's terrible.
Nah, he's probably not one of us as far as being able to spit game with the ladies. Now, there was the last moment. We got the big reveal. This was the most disappointing thing I read in all of comic books this week. And I read a lot of bad comics. We're going to talk about the worst of the week tomorrow. The Ben Ulrich story was one of the coolest things outside of those 3 villains that Jerry Duggan introduced in the very first issue of X-Men. I've been waiting for this to play out. We know that his mind got wiped, and I think it's over. The reveal that it was Sync himself who used Jean's powers and mind wiped Ben Ulrich and stole his notebook.
You built like this looming threat of it, and then you gave us the swerve, and now you're already resolved it. Great job.
And then of course he wrote Immortal X-Men. They're like, oh my God, he thinks we're heroes. We got it all wrong. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's the payoff? That's what I've been waiting for 8 issues for, this almost a year.
This is just so that it can lead into Kieran Gillen's comic and give it a title. What the fuck? Like, this is.
Yeah, then he quits the X-Men because he can't be around Laura, but he hasn't mentioned this until now.
Yeah, it's all of this is just, it's oh so random. None of this was set up. It's just, and then. There is
sometimes it feels like I'm reading Family Guy, the comic, but with mutants or something, There's like this one moment, I'm sure it stood out to you, where they show the treehouse where they live, and then you got Negasonic Teenage Warhead is just making out with this chick as these people are bringing her dinner, be like, we're sorry you lost Cyclops, and then she's telling him to go away. Cyclops is like, whoa, she's bagging a lot of hoes. And then they start talking.
Yes.
Where the fuck did this come from? Why is this in the book? This serves nothing. We haven't even seen that fucking character since House of X and Power of 10 started.
Jerry, if you think this is foreshadowing putting Negasonic Teenage Warhead on the X-Men, a character that nobody gives any shits about, nobody fucking cares. That's the only way that could possibly make sense. Otherwise, it was just, and then. It was just random bullshit.
That's what it felt like. So I'm not recommending either of these X-Men comics. I do think X-Men 8 is the better of the two, but it's definitely a step down from X-Men 7, which I thought was pretty darn good. 10 Lives of Wolverine continues to disappoint. Not a good time to be an X-Men fan, but you better get used to it, because in May, you're going to have like 18 X-Men comics.
Hey, if it's any consolation, at least next week we get to see Wolverine die again.
If you were like Doc and myself and you're a bit frustrated with the X-Men, you might be wondering, how did this all happen? Well, we have actually nailed it down. It all starts with a specific office in Marvel Comics. If you don't know, definitely check this video out because we break it all down.